Okay, let's get into the big story today, and that is Mal OBrien. Last week we had Haley Adams. She did make the decision to come back and compete. She, like Mal, decided to sit out last year. Mal has recently made the opposite decision, and she has decided that she is going to also sit out 2024. So Lauren was able to sit down with Mal OBrien, talk to her about that decision and what is on her radar moving forward. So here is our interview with Mal OBrien.
I'm now so excited to introduce Mal OBrien into the show, all the way from beautiful Hawaii. How is it out there? Have you gotten like embraced in the vibes and the energy of the island?
Yeah, it's great out here. It still feels a little bit surreal that I'm living on an island, but it's been great so far.
How many times have you visited Hawaii before you finally decided, hey, I think I could see this being my new home, at least for now?
I've been here 3 times before I decided to move here, but the third time was I was here for about a month, and that's kind of when I was like, yeah, I could live this life for a while. So yeah.
What was it about Hawaii? Was there something specifically that just grasped your heart or pulled at your soul, or what really was it?
I would say, I mean, obviously the weather. I love the
Sure.
sun. So I was like sunny all the time. And then the people that are here and the people that I've met have been just amazing. And I really wanted to surround myself with a good community like that, kind of stepping into a little bit of a new chapter in my life. I thought it would be super important. And honestly, it's all happened pretty naturally. It just kind of felt right and flowed in the right direction. So.
How many times did you think about moving to Hawaii before you finally like made it your reality?
I'm pretty sure every time I got home, I was like, I'm gonna move. um, but I never really did it, obviously, until now.
Were there any other places on your list of potential places that, you had been to before and fell in love with and maybe could see yourself living at?
Honestly, no. I have been enjoying like being in Iowa for a good while again, and this was I was kind of shocked at the fact that I wanted to leave at that point.
It's funny because going from, like, Iowa to Vermont, I would say they're kind of similar in that small town feel, the weather
Yeah,
is similar to now Hawaii, it's like a slower pace of life, and the sun is shining, and it
yeah,
looks like you've been surfing.
trying to.
Has, like, your athletic background with CrossFit and all of the other things you do, has that helped you to be more aware when you're out in the water? No, it's completely different? Tell me about that.
I remember like the first time I went out, I caught no waves. I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. I just went out with like this group of girls that had done it a long time, and I ended up just kind of sitting on my surfboard. But then I went out a second time and I kind of got a lesson, and I got up on my first try. It just was kind of like the cues that helped. But it's definitely like I'm just not really aware of my body in that like way, I guess. So it's like learning something completely different, and it was really fun. But right now I'm really into boogie boarding. That's definitely more
Oh,
my
yeah.
pace. Yeah, I think it's so much more fun.
There's something about boogie boarding because, I go to the Outer Banks, North Carolina with my family almost every year, and sometimes they have really big waves that you can boogie board, and doing it as an adult is almost more fun than when I used to do it as a kid because it's like this freeing feeling of, like, you don't know if you're gonna tumble in the waves or have a face full of
Yeah.
sand at the end, and I just love that you're able to now literally do that every day.
Yeah. It's super fun.
What has, like, getting involved with the community, making friends because anytime you move somewhere new, like, that's a huge part of it. Has it been, like, easy to get yourself out there and find your own little community in Hawaii?
Um I knew a few people here already, and then I kind of met people through them. which has been great. But I definitely like still am trying to get myself out there. It's just not something I'm used to or like a skill I really have to like just kind of show up somewhere and be like, hey, like, you want to hang out type thing. um, but yeah, I mean, it's been great with the people that I do know and the people that I have met so far. So I'm excited to continue to do that.
Would you consider yourself more introverted?
Yeah, for sure. But it is like when I'm out doing stuff, like I usually enjoy it. It's just like
Mhm.
the process of getting myself out there that is difficult.
You're also out there with your boyfriend, correct?
Yeah.
How like is would you say he's more extroverted or how do the two of you like are you yin and yang or more similar or what's that dynamic like?
Yeah, honestly, we're very similar in that like we're fine if we're going to bed at 7:30 or
Oh, I love
like
that.
if we're out doing something, like it's usually like a look at each other and it's like, okay, it's time to go. Like we're usually on the same page with all of that stuff, which makes it super easy.
If you could plan your perfect workout surrounded by your perfect day, maybe there isn't even a workout in your perfect day. Like, what does that look like for you?
Um, oh man. Well,
So many things.
I've been super into running, and a lot of people don't want to run with me because they don't want to keep up type thing. And they know it's gonna hurt. And so I guess I would just say like it's beautiful to run outside here. So like going for
Oh,
a
yeah.
run, but like having a group of people to run with would be perfect.
I'm just wondering, like, how the opportunity to move to Vermont and train with
Okay.
HWPO all came about.
Okay, yeah. So at the end of 2021, or I think Matt's agent had reached out to my agent at the time and said like they wanted me to come out to Vermont to hang out and kind of train for a little bit. So in November I went and did that. And then after I left that, we went to Utah for a good 2 weeks in December to just kind of like hang out and get the hang of like new training and like just getting to know each other, all that type of stuff. And then, I mean, ever since after that, it just was kind of like, hey, it would be really like helpful if you moved to Vermont. It'd be way easier to do like one-on-one coaching, which I agree with. It is definitely easier. Um, there's nothing really holding me back in Iowa at the time, so I was just kind of like excited and wanted to go give it a shot.
Was there any because obviously, like with the elephant in the room, you look at Hawaii, and if anybody ever gave me an opportunity to move there, I'd be like, oh, yeah, like beaches, sun, like
Yeah.
dolphins, sharks, surfing. Like there's all of these things where when I think of Vermont, it's very similar to where I live in Syracuse. And it's like you're going there for a very specific reason for training and for that like culture and environment. Was there ever any hesitation or was it just like this is the best opportunity for my job and this is what I'm going to do?
It was more like this is the best opportunity for my job and that's what I'm going to do. I'd never been to Vermont or really on the East Coast. So it was, I mean, it definitely like similar small town vibes, but honestly, like I didn't explore it a ton. I just kind of knew my people and my space.
Mm. I assume you never went snowboarding in Vermont?
No.
No. I know. I don't think many people like trying to compete in CrossFit are going to do a
No.
lot of that. I mean, there's some, but if you're not already great at it, it's kind of a high risk sport, I suppose.
Yeah.
Um, looking into like your years going from a teen competitor pretty quickly right into the elite division. What was the mindset like? What was your routine like? Can you like put yourself back into that moment or some of those moments and like remember what it felt like?
Yeah, I think as a teen, like honestly, my mindset didn't change a ton from when I was a teenager to elite. I definitely like was shocked at the fact that I had kind of made the transition as fast as I did. And I think how fast it happened also kind of like maybe took away time to really reflect on the fact that I'm a teenager and everything I did accomplish as a teenager. But I mean, at the end of the day, I just wanted to work hard and do the best I
Mm.
could. And I kept that mindset the same throughout the years, and I might have overdid it at some points. But yeah, I would say my mindset was about the same throughout all the years.
I feel like it can be very difficult when you're such a type A personality and you wanna work hard and you wanna set up all of the success for yourself. But, like, through all of that, was there ever maybe just a little voice in the back of your head that was telling you, "Slow down," or "Take a break," or "Go do something else that you might find joy in"? Like, I know you love baking and some of these other things that aren't necessarily, like, confined to a gym.
Yeah, there was definitely like moments where I was like, I don't really need to be doing this much, but it's just like even when that voice would come up, I was like, it almost made me want to do more, which doesn't really
Mm,
make sense, but it's like I was kind of just thinking of it as a bad thing, where I was like, I shouldn't want to do other stuff. Like, this is my whole life. This is all I'm good at. Like, that's just how I thought. And I mean, there's moments I would come home and like go lay in bed at 4 p.m. because I've been training since 8. And it's just like, that was my day. Like, 8
mm.
to 4. And then I'm in bed till the next morning type thing because I was obviously exhausted and like, I just didn't really have any drive to figure out if I like to do anything else or if I wanted to hang out with other people or have hobbies like that. My time was just so consumed, which is definitely like not how CrossFit is or how it should be. It's just how I approached it. And yeah, I mean, whenever I had that little voice in the back of my head, it was just kind of like I shouldn't want to do that stuff, so just turn it off.
Was there ever anybody in your circle, whether it was family, friends, competitors that had reached out and, you know, uh, I don't know, it's like you see what you see online and you're so competitive and you're so successful that I'm just curious if anybody had ever reached out and been like, "Hey, why don't we go do this? Why don't we take a break? Why don't we, see if you like to join a reading club?" Or I don't know, that may sound nerdy, but just something that, like, can turn your mind off of the training.
Mhm. Yeah, I definitely had like a few moments where I mean, it's something as simple as like, "Hey, do you want to go out to dinner tonight?" Like
Mm,
just little stuff like that, and I would do it and sometimes I wouldn't do it, but it was just like even while I was doing that stuff, I couldn't really ever enjoy it. Like my mind was literally thinking about what's on my spreadsheet for tomorrow, what I'm doing the rest of the week, how I need to be in bed by 8:30 and it's I'm still out at 8 type thing. It was just like really hard to be in such a strict routine and still allow myself to do other things like that without being uncomfortable. So there was definitely like looking back, I can tell how much people were trying to help me and like
mm.
why we did little things that we did, but in the moment it just wasn't clear to me that that's what they were trying to do.
Has there been anything else in your life that you feel or that you were at this level of, like, being extremely focused and not able to almost see some of those outside things?
I mean, I did competitive gymnastics from like 3 years old to like 9 years old, and then I went into competitive dance and competed at track meets and was on the volleyball team and swim team, and like that was just my life. So I've been doing stuff like that for a long time, but nothing as serious as CrossFit. And I think that's just because the older I got, I just like I kind of set a dream when I was 12 years old, and then I didn't want to stop it until I had accomplished it. And, I think one of the biggest things I realized is I set a dream when I was a kid, and I'm not a kid anymore, and I don't really want that anymore.
Mm,
And that was really hard for me to realize, but I am a different person. I've grown a ton. I've been through a lot of stuff, and that that was like a really big realization for me to learn.
yeah, like, wow, 12 years old, that I'm trying to think of what kind of dreams I had at 12 years old,
Yeah. You're like, I want to
and
be a vet. I want to be like a
yeah.
whatever. Like, and it usually doesn't happen.
Mm,
But
right.
it's like every kid's like little dream, you know, and they always say it out loud and whatever, and then they just end up doing something completely different, and they're like, wow, I can't believe I wanted to do that when I was a kid. And I don't know, I just always think about that.
Do you remember the moment when you knew that you had to take a break and pull away?
Yes, it was after quarterfinals. We had a few days off, and I was just like, I cried every single day after quarterfinals during my time off just because I didn't want to go back to train. And for me, that is very rare. Like, I, for the past however many years, I've always just been like more and more and more. Like, I can't wait to train. I'm excited. Like, it's never enough, all that type of stuff. And that was just the first time I was like, I do not feel like myself. I don't know what's happening. I feel so drained. Like, every workout I did gave me like a ton of anxiety. I wasn't looking forward to it. It could be something fun even, and I was just like,
Mm.
I don't want to do it. So that's just the mindset I was in after that. And it was also because like I had won the open and I won quarterfinals and I was still like empty. Like I didn't feel
Mm.
fulfilled at all. And I was like, that is such a red flag. Like I'm afraid of where this is going.
Burnout is such a real thing with anybody who performs at the highest level the way that you
Mhm.
were. Before those feelings started setting in, were there other times in your life where you had felt burnout, and was it similar?
Um, I mean, I think I felt it like a few times throughout training. Like I had a rough week or a rough day of training. Like it was just kind of like, wow, I don't really want to do this anymore. I don't know what the point is. And I think that's normal for any sport and any athlete. Like I think we all go through that. So I didn't really like put too much emphasis on it. I wasn't like super worried. I was just like, hey, I need to like go home. I need to recharge and maybe try again tomorrow type thing. And it worked up until that point, but it was just kind of getting to a point where I had so many bad days and bad weeks, and like I just go home and I was 18, 19 years old. I lived by myself. I didn't really have any friends in like besides the four people that I saw every day in Vermont, and it was just like it got really lonely, and I just felt very like I just was unhappy, and it just went too far.
Who was the first person you reached out to for support when you felt all of these red flags and knew that something just wasn't right?
Definitely my mom. She's my biggest supporter for sure. And I knew like she wouldn't judge me, so that was like super important. I'm pretty sure she like booked a flight to Vermont and was like, I'll be there soon. Um, so yeah, I think when you feel that way, it's just super important to reach out to people that won't judge you, and just kind of like you don't have to do it alone. So kind of find your little support system and figure out what to do next.
At that point, I mean, how long did it take you to process feeling burnt out, having all of these emotions happening at once? I mean, it's really telling when your body just kind of gives up and just starts crying. Like,
Yeah.
I've been there. We've all somewhat been there in some kind of capacity where your body truly, if you don't take a break, your body will force you. But do you remember, like, how long did it take you to even just get back to baseline where you could think clearly and think about what is this next step forward for Mal O'Brien?
Yeah, it took weeks for sure. I think once I realized it and had actually said it out loud, that it just kind of continued to go downhill, because like I felt very confused, and like now other people knew what I kind of have been thinking about the past few months, and that was scary for me. Um so I mean, once I said it out loud that I was like, "Hey, I can't compete. I don't want to do it." And it took multiple conversations to get it out because it just felt so weird to say it out loud. I mean, I think it just kind of went downhill for a little bit. I had a lot of weeks where I just felt very like out of body. Like I would at first I was like doing workouts still just to like cuz I like to work out and I like to be healthy.
Mhm.
But I just like from the outside I probably looked perfectly fine and like I could compete at semifinals, and on the inside I was just like it felt so out of body. Like I remember finishing workouts and be like, I don't even know how I picked that bar up. Like my
Mm.
mind was just in such a weird place, and it definitely took weeks for me to kind of like wake up and be like, okay, like I'm not there. I'm not competing. We need to move on type thing.
Well, and even going from the moment that you finally verbalized it and, reached out to your mom, and then after reached out to the other people in your circle, you mentioned that it had been a thought for months. What was that battle going on in your head where were you faced with, I don't know if I'm just being weak, I don't know if I'm giving up, like I don't know if like what was that battle going on in your head?
Yeah. Well, I think for me, I kind of had like a moment of like I don't really want to do this before the season started, and then I just
Mm.
kind of
Like before the open.
yeah. So I had like a few weeks of that, and I just like I trained for an hour a day leading into the season and just trying to like fill my time with other stuff. I went home for a little bit.
Mhm.
I did Wadapalooza for fun, like on a team, and I was feeling okay after that. And then we just kind of, I mean, we went to Hawaii for 10 days after Wadapalooza as well. And like I could kind of notice I was like getting pretty anxious again and wanting to train more than an hour and just dive right back into it because that's just kind of all I knew. Like that's what
Mhm.
felt normal to me. I didn't think I could make training an hour or two a day my routine. I needed more than that. So I mean, we got home. I had some serious strep throat when we got home,
Oh,
and I went into the gym the next day and worked out because I was like, I need to get
how did
back
you
in my
breathe?
routine. I don't know.
Like, I think about the scratchiness of how bad that
Yeah,
hurts.
it was
Sucking wind with
horrible.
strep throat.
Huh?
Sucking wind with strep
Yeah,
throat is
for real.
terrible.
So yeah, I just knew like I think it just was like a kind of a blur. I just like jumped right back into everything and kind of neglected, self-care, all that. I was only focused on the season, and I just had kind of forgotten about how I felt that last month. I was back in Vermont, so and then the season just kind of kicked off. So mentally I was like, I'm in it. I'm going to finish it. There's a ton of pressure. I'm not really enjoying this, but I think it will go by fast. And honestly, like February and March felt like 8 years.
Mm.
It just felt so long and like dreadful. And I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna do this, but I'll figure it out until I couldn't. But yeah.
Where do you think that pressure comes from? Have you been somebody that, you know, always puts pressure on yourself, or you put pressure from like external validation? Or, I mean, Matt is your coach and you look at all the success that he has, like maybe pressure from comparing, or where did it come from for you, and maybe multiple places?
Yeah, I think mainly it comes from myself, which is something I just realized like in the past few months because I had always thought it was like social media or like I mean last year especially we're like Mal's gonna win. Mal has to win. All this stuff. Like I thought that was it, and it turns out like I might that might feed the pressure I give myself, but I don't think it was all from that. It was definitely like more of mentally how I've trained myself and how I have to perform, and like that was just putting more pressure on myself than literally anything. I was like, how I did each piece of my day was literally my entire self worth, and that is like more pressure than anyone could ask for.
When you finally made the decision to not compete last year, Was there an instant relief, or was it anxiety and stress before you actually felt like you could breathe again?
Um, I mean, when I first said it, I was just in a panic mode. Like I didn't know what to do with myself because I mean, it was like a random Wednesday and I'm supposed to be training and I'm sitting in the kitchen like I can't compete. I don't want to do this. So it was like panic at first and that probably lasted a few days until I like calmed down and kind of went into like this zoned out state, but I was like it was more of just like I don't know what to do with myself. Like where do I go from here? Um so yeah, I would say it was honestly just a bit of a panic for a while.
The decision not to compete last year, then what were some of the things that you used to fill your time, and what has the rebuild of who is Mal O'Brien and where does your self-worth come from? What has that journey been like the last year?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely still figuring it out. I'm not where I want to be yet. But it started like I was just being a kid. I had never been a kid and I just kind of like gave myself the permission. I was like, stay up late, like go out with your friends, go to bonfires, like have boat days, like it's summer, like go do whatever you're supposed to do in the summer. And I had like a blast, honestly. I mean, that's where I met my boyfriend, like just a ton. I've met a lot of new people through that experience and grown closer to people because of it. Like, it almost felt like I was making up for like a ton of lost time with my family and friends and like everything in Iowa, which felt super great and like fulfilling to do. Um, but I mean, right now I'm still just like there's been like I've tried a ton of new hobbies. Like obviously I posted a lot about like my baking and all of that stuff.
Oh, yeah. We all love it.
Yeah, more to come, I promise. Um, but also just like creating with like people that I worked with in the sport that aren't really in it anymore and they want to create stuff with me. Like the MOB stuff has been
Mhm.
super fun and YouTube and just learning how to like make myself feel fulfilled until I'm ready to kind of like have a work routine again and all of that, which I'm super, super grateful to be able to do and take the time for. So,
What has been the most, surprising hobby that you're like, "Huh, I never thought that I would like doing this?"
hmm, that's a good question. Honestly, like, I mean, I was like baking, like, I baked sometimes around the holidays, but like, I didn't think I would like it as much as I did until I started doing it. And then I got into like bread and stuff. And I
The
always looked
sourdough.
I always looked at it and I was like, that's way too much work. I don't want to do that. And now I'm like, I'll spend my whole day doing that. Thank you.
Oh, what's your
uh,
favorite thing that you've made?
bagels for sure. I love
Mm.
making bagels. I make them once or twice a week.
Like a plain bagel, a cinnamon raisin bagel? What kind of bagels are we talking about?
Everything is my favorite.
Woo-hoo-hoo.
Yeah, so good.
With some Kerrygold butter, I can already, like, taste it in my mouth right now.
It's perfect. I gotta get them so I can send them out to people, but I'm too nervous.
Oh my gosh, you should absolutely do
I
that.
know.
Like, shipping from Hawaii would be a lot, but I would totally pay for it to try your everything bagels.
Oh my
I will be
gosh.
your first customer. You can write me down right now. Can we expect a cookbook or like some where to like follow your recipes? I know sometimes you like loosely post them on Instagram, but
Yeah.
like,
I definitely want to like have a place to post my recipes eventually, but I don't know what that looks like. So something I had told myself last year was I knew I didn't want to put myself into the competition area again until I had found something else that kind of
mm,
made me feel joy and like took a lot of my time and I haven't exactly found that yet. And I say that mainly because I don't want like my old habits to come back as in like if I had like something else to kind of focus on, I think it'd be a lot easier to balance it out. But I also just like I don't feel ready And I think that's bigger than anything. I felt very content and at peace with that decision. And, like when people started asking me that, I was like, no, I don't want to compete. And honestly, it was a bit of a shock, but I kind of figured it out like October, November. I really started feeling it, that I didn't want to do it this year. And that was just a decision. I didn't let anybody influence that. I didn't want anybody else's opinion. Um, yes, I got everyone's opinion.
I'm sure you
um,
did. Like, would
uh,
people send you DMs and stuff
oh
like
yeah.
that to like, "Hey, we think you should compete because here are my reasons," type deal?
Oh yeah, a ton. I still get them even though I announced that I am not competing and the season starts tomorrow and I'm not signed up. I still get them.
And I don't know if you wanna share this, but share as little or as much as you want. What is the craziest message that you've gotten from somebody and you're just like, "What in the world? Where is this coming from?"
Oh man. I honestly stopped looking at a lot of them because I was like,
Oh,
this
good
is
for you.
so useless. But I mean, it is probably like the past year has been like people like writing out my story of how it should go and like sending it to me. And I'm
Wait,
like
what?
what? Like they'll
Like,
like
writing
write
out your
out like,
life?
yeah. It's so
What?
weird. Like the past, they'll like mainly because I stopped competing last year, but it will be like
Yeah.
they'll like write out like you stop competing and then like kind of like how my life should be now. It's so weird. But it's like I'm
Okay.
reading like a book or something. I'm like, is it like people that don't even know me or like anything about my life will be doing this? And I'm like, okay, super weird.
Living proof that the internet is a dumpster fire.
Yeah, very
Is there
much.
anything on your list right now that you're like, "Okay, this year I'm gonna try this. This year I'm gonna get involved with this." Like, what's on the adventure or hobby itinerary for you?
Um, I definitely this might sound crazy, but I definitely want to get like a job of some sort. As in like I
Oh,
want to
tell
get
us more.
like I want to be a barista for a little bit or like a
Oh,
waitress or like something like that just to like I just want to experience it because I feel like that's something every teenager experiences that I haven't yet. And I think it'd be really fun. It'd be a great way for me to meet people and just learn.
when you look at, this next year, taking more time off to really serve yourself, what does that growth and timeline and, like, if you could see yourself a year from now, what would that look like?
Um, Honestly, that question is like impossible because I've been thinking about how much my life has changed in this past year. Like I couldn't even try and guess what I'm gonna look like in a year because I had planned absolutely none of it, and it was all such a surprise, and it honestly happened in such a short amount of time too. Like it wasn't over like a span of few years. It was like a month, and my life was completely different. So I mean, I just hope that I like right now I'm definitely on like that discovery who am I type journey, and I don't think it's something we ever really figure out, but I hope I'm doing what makes me happy and continuing to take care of myself.
Well, Mal, it's so great to chat with you, all things about your life and Hawaii and baking, and
Mhm.
I'm so happy for you that you've been able to find this new life that you're creating for yourself, and I can't wait to check in with you more, and maybe I'll be giving you a call that I'm coming over and we're gonna go surfing and eat your home-cooked bagels.
That'd be perfect day.
Okay, perfect. I can't wait. You have a great rest of your day, and we will chat soon.
Thank you.
Thanks to Mal OBrien for doing that. Admire the hell out of her. I'm a huge fan.
Mhm.
Wish her nothing but the best. And yeah, just hope that she's happy. She seems a lot happier. And as a fan, I would love to see her back out there. But if that's not in the cards, you know what? Good for her. Find what makes you happy, Mel. Good job. We're going to have that entire interview up for our patrons on Patreon. So if you're one of our patrons and you want to hear the entire interview, you can go to patreon.com. If you want to be an official friend of the show, you can head to patreon.com/talkingelitefitness, sign up to be a friend of the show. You'll get access to exclusive content. And you will be able to join us every Friday when we do our live Q&As, when we hang out with our patrons, which is a lot of fun. Just really informal. Us just talking about everything from CrossFit to snack food. You get a wide variety.
A lot of snack food.
A lot of stuff.
Tommy cooks. Tommy does rowing marathons. You never know.
It was awesome. Yeah, you never know what's going to happen on those Fridays. So that's patreon.com/talkingelite.